Timo Werner, possibly. I think it's done, right? Returning back to Leipzig.
Very close. Sounds like Chelsea will be leaving on a permanent, but Chelsea will not be receiving much, if anything, for a player they spent £50 million on. I think there's still a real talent there. I think one of the things, I remember hearing this from Kai Havertz, but the same rings true for Werner. These guys came to the Premier League at the toughest time to do anything in your life. Right in the middle of a COVID pandemic, moving countries. Werner worked himself to the ground. It just, for whatever reason, it just didn't quite click. And I think he's obviously, or it looks like he's a player that needs to feel the confidence, feel the love. He did always get the love from Chelsea fans, it has to be said. But maybe it's just that confidence. And if he'd ever had a moment where 4 or 5 goals went in 2 or 3 games, and I know that's a lot to ask of any Premier League striker, but if something like that had come along for Werner, I think we could have seen a really different player. And I think it may well come. Much like Lukaku, much like Havertz for a long time, this 11 was never built for Werner's strengths. He will do great work, I'm sure, at Leipzig, where they'll probably pair him with Yusuf Poulsen, target man. He runs in behind. Never saw that. They had a target man, but it was Lukaku, and he didn't like playing that way. Werner is clearly a player you play in a front two.
Does this significantly improve Leipzig's chances of competing against Bayern and Borussia Dortmund? Because, Werner, he knows the league, he knows the team. I mean, it's got to help, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you've got weapons now as well, haven't you? I mean, the difference between when he left and that season after he left, they were kind of just like, God, who scores goals? It wasn't that was the year that Angelino was their top scorer. Right. I mean, now it's Nkunku. He when Werner comes back, he won't be the main man, will he? This is Christopher Nkunku's team, and I'm intrigued to see how he kind of fits with that. But
the competition can only be healthy enough for Leipzig to do something. That's right. All right. Well, very quickly on Chelsea though? Lukaku gone, Werner gone. I know that Kai Havertz will lead that way. I know that Raheem Sterling, Thomas Tuchel will play around with that, but surely they're going to have to bring something in. I mean, it's, the target men for Chelsea, and I know that it's a little bit different when you're talking about Tuchel's system, but the target men for Chelsea are few and far between. You expect a little bit of business now that Werner is on his way to Leipzig.
Yeah, I was told a few days ago that they and Barcelona had initiated talks. There's a lot of confusion where this comes from about Aubameyang, but the two clubs had really initiated those talks. Aubameyang, I think, is pretty agnostic. If they can reach a deal, he'll hear Chelsea out, and obviously great relations with Thomas Tuchel, and an obvious fit. Whether it's a 3-4-3 or a 4-3-3, I can see how he would fit into that Chelsea team. That is one to keep an eye on. Obviously, they're spending a lot of money, but it's a deal I would suspect Barcelona are quite keen to do to tidy up that wage bill.
Yeah, I'm sure they're quite keen to do it.
I mean, it's fair to say that he's actually, and he took a pay cut not just for last season, but this as well to facilitate that move to Barcelona. They haven't spoken to him about what will happen with his salary next year. But he's not stupid. He's seen what's happened with De Jong. He's seen what happened with Busquets and Piqué and
if I were you, PEA, get that Todd Bowley money, baby, and just go to Chelsea because especially now that Lewandowski, etc. But all right, one to turn out then Aubameyang maybe to Chelsea. That should be interesting. And by the way, just to wrap up the Bundesliga chatter, the battle for the USMNT number 9 spot, PFOG/Sibachu, because he's changed it back. Off to a perfect start at Union Berlin. He scored in the Berlin derby, and Ricardo Pepi came on for the last 15 minutes of a 4-0 defeat. By the way, our guys in Soccer We Trust there with Jimmy Conrad, Heath Pierce, Charlie Davis, they're going to get into the discussion further in tomorrow's live show at 1 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you check that out. All right, Liga, very quickly. Jonathan Johnson could talk about this for hours, James Bench.
We're not going to.
No, we're just going to talk about Lionel Messi's bicycle kick, which, by the way, was the first ever, I think. A first ever bicycle kick for Lionel Messi. Do you believe that?
No, I actually do. As in, I literally do not believe that. I suspect someone has missed something somewhere along the way.
I'm not sure. I mean, I have read that statistically on Twitter, which is obviously the fountain of knowledge for everybody. But I do feel that that's true because I don't ever recall him ever doing a bicycle.
Yeah, it could be. And look, there is this great debate, is there not, as to what is this? Is this a bicycle kick? Because his
that's right.
arms are on the
Or
ground.
the chest
Is
and
it
the
that?
side volley, right. What do you think?
I think it's a bicycle kick.
Yeah,
I think
of
all
course.
this is, and then we have
Just
scissor
because
kicks
he's
and all that.
3'1" doesn't mean that he can't do a bicycle kick. All right?
I saw this bizarre meme that was like, in response to the Messi overhead kick, or whatever we want to call it, bicycle kick, someone had like said, and he's 170 centimeters tall. Cristiano Ronaldo was 2 meters 5 in the air with his Atletico Madrid bicycle kick. I was like, how are you lot still fighting? How are you still going at it over things like this?
Why is this still a battle?
What's that about? Like, he can jump higher than Messi. He's a professional athlete. But anyway, I thought, so when I first saw the clip, obviously, as I said, I was on holiday, so I came to it a little late, and people said, oh, Messi, oh my God. I thought it was the clipped pass over the top by Paredes, which I think is the better of the two things.
Yeah, that was a beauty. But to be fair, and I no disrespect, but Clermont are pretty average, and that was a pretty average allowance of a goal. In the end, PSG won 5-0. And by the way, and Des Norris wanted to add in the notes, by the way, does having your arms on the ground count as a bicycle kick?
Yes. Because you're still kicking the ball.
You're still doing it. It's a rotational pull of the boot. But yeah, absolutely. Neymar, by the way, as well, he had a good time. So 5-0. Galtier's men obviously do their thing. Lille win 4-1 against Auxerre. A brace and an assist for Jonathan David, by the way. A man that I'm still surprised is still there, actually.
I'm very surprised.
Would you see him leaving before the end of the window?
Well,
everyone has a very good player, and I really thought he was going to go on his way. For like major clubs, I thought were going to be interested in this.
They still might be. It wouldn't shock me. I mean, you hear that United, who have Eric Ten Hag really likes Jonathan David, has kind of followed him a lot. Like, there's an option there. We're talking about Chelsea. I think all these clubs have looked at him, and clearly none of them have had him at the very, very top of their list. But, right now, your Nunez's, your Haalands, they're gone. And if you feel like you need a striker, he's not going to be crazy expensive. He is available. He wants to move.
You can do a lot worse than the Canadian striker. He's excellent.
It's worth having a look. So, yeah, this will only help his cause.
Yeah, 100%. Lyon, by the way, went 2-1 against Ajaccio. I don't know if it's Ajaccio. Please tell me if I'm wrong. I would love to know. Toulouse,
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not asking you. I'm asking anybody. I wish JJ was around. Toulouse 1-0 against Nice. Aaron Ramsey, by the way, James Bench, he equalized on his debut. What do you think about that?
I want the new Aaron Ramsey. I've heard he's really good. I'll have him.
Or maybe Jacob Ramsey's brother.
Both.
Our Aaron Ramsey, exactly. All right, well, that was it, everybody. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Our weekend recap returns, so we got plenty more content to come. James Bench, anything to plug before we say goodbye? Final thoughts, buddy?
I actually have nothing to plug because I've only just come back from holiday, so I don't really know what's going on.
Well, as long as you had a good time, that is all that matters. James Bench, make sure to follow his content on CBS Sports website, of course, HQ, and much, much more, especially, of course, as a key member of Qué Golazo. By the way, thank you so much for listening to Qué Golazo. Take a minute to leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. We're on Apple Pods, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you listen to your pods. We're also available as video. As you know, if you're watching this, subscribe to us on YouTube. Visit YouTube. James Bench, LME, Qué Golazo. Have a great, great rest of your Sunday. We will see you next time. Till then, bye-bye.